Hey everyone, Sara Vitale, Wild Boar at your service. Today let's take a look at some formatting tips. First up, title pages. It's the first thing they're going to see, so it's the most important thing you can do is get it right. Here is literally the only information that should be on your title pages. Notice there's no WGA registration numbers, there's only your address or email address nowadays. And then your phone number. Other than that, it's pretty much what you would expect. You can go with written by, or some people prefer just by. If you're doing an adaptation, that could be screenplay by. Then you're gonna put your name. If you're a writing team, you're gonna add the second name. And you can either use an ampersand if you're a team that writes together, like my partner Ellen and I. Or if you write separately and are collaborating, you would use the word "and" spelled out here. Based on, if it's based on a true story, you could insert that here. Or if you were doing an adaptation, you would reference the name of the original material here. And that's it. Notice the spacing. If you have a program like Final Draft 11, it will have all of this set up for you, which I love. And then you're gonna put in your title. Now you'll notice the title is underlined and it's in all caps. Just get this in here. Okay, and you do have a little bit of play with your title. This is where you can show a little style. You can go into your font and select a font that fits your screenplay. Let's see what I'm gonna go with here. Let's go with Impact. You can change the size. You can even change the color. And if you like, you can even put it in regular case. You don't have to have it in uppercase. Uppercase is standard. But again, with your title, you have a little bit of room to play around. This is where you can show a little style. And again, make sure you get your spacing right. 1, 2, 3. And then underneath written by, we have 1, 2. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, right on the bottom margin, you want to put your email address and phone number, no spaces between the bottom of that and your margin. All right, let's jump into some scene headings. So you can have an interior location, INT period. Let's do coffee shop, then a space, then a dash, then day or night, or whatever your time is. Now, day or night are typically what you're going to go with. You can occasionally do a continuous, which I only use after flashbacks, and once in a while you might see a simultaneously. Anything other than that strays dangerously over the line of overwriting. And if you're worried about overwriting, you can check out my tutorial about that. Okay, now your other choice would be, of course, exterior, EXT. Coffee shop, space, dash, space, and day or night. Notice these are in all caps. In a program like Final Draft, it's going to have these formatted properly for you. Now let's say you have a sublocation. Let's say you're in the coffee shop, and then we go into the bathroom. Coffee shop, space, bathroom, space, dash, day. And a sublocation is where you might see simultaneously. Let's get into some action lines now. So after a scene heading, you're going to go into your action lines. These are not capitalized. And you're going to describe your location. Fast forward a bit here for you. Now, best practice is to have 4 lines of action and then find a natural break so that you can start a new chunk. It's not written in stone like much of script writing, it's a bit about your style, but according to the advanced classes I took at UCLA recently, this is currently best practice if you want to be super professional, no more than 4 lines at a time. A great place to break is when you introduce a new character. Also a bit of style preference, but also super best practice to break when you introduce a new character. Always use an action line after a scene heading. You could use a super, but other than that, and even that is straying, you really want to have an action line after your scene heading. It doesn't mean you have to describe the entire location if you've already done that previously. It could just be, get rid of this. The shop is dark. Super stands for superimpose. Some people will use overlay instead. Some people write out the whole word. Whatever you do, it goes in caps with a colon. In Final Draft, you can format it as a shot, which will do the caps automatically for you. And then whatever you're imposing on the screen. So here I'm going to put this in caps. And again, in Final Draft, you would want to format that as a shot to get super professional spacing. You see how it moved it down a bit. Shots are spaced a bit differently. If you don't have a fancy program, don't stress out over it. Just go ahead and put it in caps. And that's what will be displayed on top of your image on the screen. Alright, let's some characters introduced here. So when you introduce a character for the first time, you're gonna type their name in all caps, followed by a parenthesis, then their age, a comma, their gender, a comma, a couple descriptive words. If you wanted to, you could put an age range here instead. 50s, or any age. You don't have to specify a gender. You can specify any gender, non-binary, and you don't have to put descriptions. This again is about style. There's a lot of room for style in what you say about your characters. You might want to put their ethnicity or any ethnicity. Here's another character, Frank. Now, if I've already introduced him, I'm not going to put him in caps and I'm not going to add any descriptions. I'm just going to type his name. Again, even if a character has no lines, you're still going to introduce them in all caps the first time we see them. And again, even if you don't want to specify age, gender, ethnicity, or any of that, you're still going to introduce them in caps, whether they have lines or not. You also want to put any key extras in caps. People that are going to need to be cast specifically. So in this crowd scene, if we specifically an elderly couple, you're going to want to introduce that in caps. And onwards we go into shots. Now in a program like Final Draft, you're going to be able to format your line as a shot, which will give the proper spacing above your shot, and we'll put it in all caps for you. Right now I'm just going to type in regular type, Gertrude's point of view, P.O.V. and here's what she sees. Man enters in a raincoat. Now, if you don't have Final Draft, you're going to put this all in caps. If you do have Final Draft, you're going to go into your format menu, select a shot, and that will give you the proper spacing and put it in caps for you. Next, we have on shots. So what if we want to see what's happening in a certain area of the scene? Here I've specified on counter bar. And then beneath that I'll put here's what's going on at the counter bar. I may add a couple of lines, I may add a shot, I may add dialogue. And here I've added some text and a couple of shots. I've filled out what's happening at the counter. The important thing is that when I'm done with the sequence, I'm going to type end counter sequence. This will be in all caps. It could be back to scene, a little bit of style preference here. Whatever you do, it's going to be in all caps, indicating that that sequence is over. Now, if you've already introduced a location, you can use an intercut shot instead of going to a whole new scene. And what that would look like, again, shots are always going to be in all caps, intercut, colon, location, in this case I'm using the mill, then another colon, and then whatever is happening at the mill. We're going to format that as a shot. We'll give us the proper spacing, and we'll put it in all caps automatically for us. So if you're in a location, you want a quick peek at what's going on somewhere else, use an intercut. Separate the amateurs from the pros. I've got a whole video about dialogue tips. Let's start with tags for right now. You've got 3 choices, VO, OS, and OC. OC and OS both mean the same thing. The character's in the location, but not in the room. They are OC, off camera, or OS, off screen. Either way is technically correct, but off camera is old-fashioned. Stick to OS. VO is a totally different thing. They're not there in the location. We're hearing their voice from somewhere else. Maybe a narrator. What if they're singing? Okay, well, lyrics go in all caps. Same format as far as margins and spacing. If you're using copyrighted material, which, by the way, I do not ever recommend, you would put it in quotes. Here's another place we separate out the amateurs, transitions. The days of putting a cut to between every scene are long gone, my friends. In fact, the less transitions you use, the better. Which ones are okay? Flashback. Always gonna need that one. More about flashbacks later. Match cut to means it's important that they match up. Match dissolve, same thing. A little bit of a style preference whether the camera cuts or dissolves. I have seen match fade also. Here's what you'll typically see. Cut to, fade in, fade out, fade to, dissolve to, back to, match cut to, jump cut, style, fade to black. We all know that one. Smash cut, a style thing, cut to black, and time cut, which are very handy. I hope you guys are ready for this. Here's where it gets a little more complicated. We're going into flashbacks. We're going to start that with a transition, just like our other transitions. It's on the right-hand margin, but it's in bold. Please, in bold. Now, after your flashback transition, you're going to use a regular old scene heading, interior or exterior, your location. You're going to put your time of day in there, and then a flashback tag. Now this is so that the reader doesn't get confused and wonder if they're still in flashback or not, particularly handy for longer flashback sequences. I prefer mine in bold, some prefer italics. Either way, it's your choice, and that's exactly what it is, a style choice according to my advanced class at UCLA anyway. So, take your pick, but be consistent throughout your script. An alternate method of flashbacks, you can use a begin flashback tag on your left-hand margin like so, in all caps. And then you would go into your scene. Any scene headers that you need would be identical. I don't prefer that method, so I do mine this way. My scene, my more scene, and then an end flashback tag, please. Left-hand margin, all caps. Let's say you have multiple scenes. We would put the multiple scenes with, yep, you guessed it, a flashback tag. Again, consistency is what we want here, whether you choose bold or italics. And then I would continue with my scene. You can have as many scenes as you want in a flashback. I recommend you try to keep your flashbacks to 5 pages or under. When you get into more scenes than that, you're going to start to get feedback that your timeline's choppy. The key here is when you're done, you want to do an end flashback tag aligned on your left margin, and then your next scene header. And here's where you can use that continuous. If the action is continuing after a flashback in the exact same location and no time has passed, we're just coming out of the flashback, The continuous tag lets the reader follow along more easily. If you were going to a new location or the action was not continuous, you would just use your regular old scene heading with a day or night tag on the end. Like so. To draw attention to a key object, put it in all caps. If it's in a shot, you can put it in bold to draw attention, only the first time we see it in the script. Formatting montages, you're going to have two basic choices, a montage in one location or a montage in various locations. Either way, we're going to start with a montage tag on the left-hand side in all caps. If you're in Final Draft, go ahead and format it as a shot. If not, just all caps on the left-hand margin. Or you can do montage-various if you have more than one location. So if we're just going to stay in one location, it's just going to be montage by itself. X line, you're going to use a dash, no space after that dash, followed by the first thing that's happening. Continue on this way. You can add dialogue. You want to keep your dialogue to a minimum in montages. And montages are different than sequences. Montages mean time is passing. Sequences are pretty much continuous. At the end, an end montage tag, left-hand margin, all caps. Let's take a look if we do a montage various. I'm going to do a capital letter A followed by a backwards parenthesis. Is that the name for that? We're going to use our same format for a scene header and then a colon and our action. Continue on that way. Capital letter B, our scene header, all caps on our scene header, a colon, then back into regular text. Unless you're writing a shot, then you're going to format it as a shot. Just like with one location, you're going to use an end montage tag at the end of your montage sequence. Left margin, capitalize. Now, if you have less than 4 or 5 scenes in your montage, you might just want to go with regular scene headers. In which case, you just take out your montage and then use a time cut transition to show that time has passed between these events. Go ahead and format this properly here. And then I might specify how much time has passed. Or you could use a super. And then I'd fill in my scenes. So just taking the montage and splitting it into scenes if there's less than, I don't know, maybe 5 scenes in your montage. Style preference. Some people will adjust these for page count up or down. What about sequences? These are different than montages. We don't have chunks of time passing. We're looking at what's happening right now in a sequence. Maybe an action sequence. Could be anything, really. I'm going to use food service sequence. So left-hand margin, all caps, followed by the action that's happening. Now you could list this out just like we did in our montage with dashes, no space, followed by the list of events. So I would need to go back in there and add my dash. Important end sequence tag when it's over, left-hand margin, all caps. Then you can go back into the same scene, which you would just continue writing without a scene header after your end sequence tag instead of a scene header here. You would just continue the scene. If you're going to a new location, new scene header. I know it's a lies, I want you to push through it wild boar style. Here we go, page settings. If you find all this a little overwhelming, you can hire somebody like me to take care of it for you. Okay, page settings. You can change your margins for sure. Standard is 1 inch. Don't ever go over 1.25. I don't recommend changing them at all, nor do I recommend changing your spacing, even if your program gives you that option. This will definitely be noticed by a professional reader. They will see that your spacing is tight, they will see that it's loose, They'll see that your margins are off. I mean, come on, they look at scripts all day. And they're going to know that you're trying to mess with your page count. If you need to address your page count, I highly recommend you go ahead and just address it. And here I'm just showing you, to us, it might look the same. To a professional reader, it absolutely does not. Don't get roped in to changing any of your page settings. You made it to the end. Congratulations. You're gonna go ahead and type the end. Now in Final Draft, this will do this automatically for me if I format it as an end of act. But for you, you're gonna center it, you're gonna put it in bold, you're gonna put it in caps, and you're gonna underline it. Now things are a little different with a pilot. If you're interested in learning about pilot formatting, you should check out my other videos. If you want to do an after credits teaser, here's how I do mine. I type after credits teaser ... right after the end. I do not put a page break. That is a style preference. You can put a page break if you'd like. Then I would go into my scene header and go. That's it, guys. You made it to the end of your script and my video. Thanks for watching. Please support independent artists by clicking subscribe. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see in the next episode.